Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Soccer Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. We have a great show for you today. We will be covering Portugal getting past Czechia with the stoppage time winning goal. We'll preview tomorrow's European Euro matchups. We'll talk about the must-watch Copa America group stages games. We'll talk about which teams have impressed the most at the European Championships through match day one. And make sure you stick around to the end of the show, where I'll be giving you my thoughts on some of the top headlines going on in the soccer world. Before we start off, I'd like to ask that y'all like and follow the show. Also, we get a number of questions that come in during the show, so to ensure that your questions get read on the air, I ask that you use the tips and donations link at gsmcpodcast.net with your questions. This puts your questions at the top of the list so that I can see it, and it also really helps grow the show. So again, the link is gsmcpodcast.net. We start off with Portugal coming back from behind to defeating Czechia. This is an interesting game. This was a game that Portugal were the much better team, the more dominant team, the bigger protagonist. There's no doubting that. When you look at Portugal having 74% of possession, Portugal having 19 shots to 5 shots for Czech, 8 shots on target to 1 shot for Czechia. It's clear Portugal were the main protagonists, but it was also Portugal who found themselves down late in the game. First, in the 62nd minute, when Lucas Provad was able to score a wonder of a goal right outside the box, tucked it into the corner, and it was a Portugal team for the first 60 or odd minutes that looked, for pretty much the entire game, not gonna lie, that looked a little bit of a slow in terms of not really having much players that were vertical, that ran in behind, that were willing to take on the defender one-on-one. And Rafael Leao, he tried to do that, but then his final ball would be horrible, like it wouldn't find nobody. Ronaldo, he was looking a lot for that ball, for the cross in. His main attribute, or his main form of trying to create space for himself, was trying to create space in between the center halves, or space between the center backs and the full backs for a potential cross in. Apart from that, no real movements from Ronaldo, but that's kind of what we expect. He is a box striker at this day and age. And Portugal just looked slow, looked devoid of ideas. I never could really understand what João Cancelo was playing, because I looked at the lineup to start off. You got Vitinha and Bruno Fernandes playing a double pivot. That's not what I would go with, just to say it nicely. And then you see it's João Cancelo. He's kind of like, so he's listed originally in the starting lineup as a left wing back or so, but he's kind of like a hybrid, can do whatever he wants. There was sometimes he was in that left side, sometimes he was picking up pockets in midfield. There was some times that he was on the right hand side, and it was just confusing to me, the role he had, exactly what he was brought in to do. I was very confused with João Cancelo. In Portugal, they're trying to be this fluid team that are positionless. They can all rotate, because they have players. They have Bernardo Silva, Vitinha, Bruno Fernandes, João Cancelo, that are all players that can play in different positions. So they want to be this fluid team, kind of like the way England tried setting up against Serbia the first 15 minutes. They were fluid. They were all taking each other's spaces. They were all playing in different parts of the pitch. Portugal tried to do that, but they tried to do that throughout this game, but it just was too slow, too stagnant. You had players, Bruno Fernandes, he didn't really get on the ball enough. He wasn't really in the prime areas that he could be dangerous. Bernardo Silva, same thing. The spaces that he was picking up were spaces that he was ineffective, spaces that he couldn't show really his quality. Talked about Cristiano Ronaldo. His the main thing he was trying to do the entire game was try to find spaces in between the center backs, or in between the center back and full backs, for a little pocket of spaces that he can get a header off. wasn't really dropping down and joining play as much. Had one nice back heel, I believe it was to Vitinha, who didn't get through. But other than that, didn't really get involved much with general play. Didn't really cover that much space. Kind of patrolled in his own area, but that's what we expect of Ronaldo at this day and age. Rafael Leao, I think it was absolutely horrible, and he's always been horrible for Portugal. He's the main guy that's really should be, that's looked at as the guy to bring in verticality, someone that can beat someone one-on-one and open up space for his teammates. But his final ball was just so poor, and he was just so bad the entire game, and it was just so slow from Portugal. Now Czech, they played well. They had their back three, they had their full wing backs tucked in. They had Susek covering any space left between the center backs, and they were really tight. Povrot and Dodera were very, very tight and compact. So there was not that much space for the Czechians, and even on the transitions, they didn't put many guys. They didn't really push up many guys forward. They were really attacking with 3 guys, maybe 4 guys, and they were really closing off the space. And they defended really, really well. They put they defended for their lives, but Portugal were able to find the goal to tie it up. Goalkeeper mistake, in my opinion, by Stanek. In that position, that's a catchable ball. That's very catchable. Instead, he tries to hit it out. The Czech defender can't do nothing about it. Deflects off him into the back of the net. I thought it was poor from the goalkeeper. Then, speaking about Portugal being slow, being lethargic, being stagnant, it took Roberto Martinez 90 minutes, but he finally brings on, he originally brought on Diego Jota in the 60th minute or so when they were chasing. But then in the last minute, he brought on Semedo, Gonzalo Inacio, and Pedro Neto. And Pedro Neto, in my opinion, he brought on Pedro Neto, Conceição, and Semedo in that last minute, and Pedro Neto ended up making the play. He provided the verticality. He sped up play that this Portugal team needed because they were so slow. He came in and made the difference and provided the verticality. He got past the player, put in a cross. The Czech defender messed up the clearance. It went through in between his legs. And then Conceição right there, right in front of the goal for an easy tap-in. And that's the victory for the Portuguese national team after a long, hard-fought grind of a game. They really struggled to break them down, but they were eventually able to get it down. And it was it was an impressive comeback to do it that late in the game. But still, there's Portugal come out of that game with a lot more questions than answers, in my opinion. That they were shaky. I really think defensively is a big concern that I had about that game, because Czech really did not go into this. They went in with the mentality that a point was enough, and they never really pushed guys forward at all. And the very few opportunities that they did, they were in, and they had a good opportunity. That goal was probably one of their only attacks that entire game up to that point. And then they also had another clear-cut opportunity after Portugal were able to equalize. They had another clear opportunity where, if the Czech player can control the ball cleanly and able to lay it off for one of the Czechian players coming in, it could have been another goal for Czech. And for me, it's just like in transition, that Portuguese defense looked very weak, and they looked like they could be had. And then when they're going up against quality opponents that have like a France, in my opinion, that has quality, that has their ability to play in transition, if Portugal defend the way that they did against Czech, oh my goodness, they could get melted by Germany. They could get melted. It was very, very concerning, in my opinion, the way that they defended, because they were really put under pressure in Czech. There was only a few moments that Czech really decided, like the Czechians really pushed up the field. And the few moments they did, it led to good opportunities. Susek had a very good opportunity that could have made it 2-1. That's something that would be a major concern for Roberto Martinez, in my opinion, alongside their slow ability of not moving the ball. They gotta move the ball quicker. Bruno Fernandes, Bernardo Silva, they need to be pushed in more better areas to have more of an effect in the game. I thought Vitinha was excellent. I've told myself, I've said this before on this podcast many times. Vitinha, he's a big time player, and I don't think he's a guy that would shrink in this. So I think he's amazing. It's amazing his rise at PSG, and it's amazing for this Portuguese national team, because that's the kind of player that can really rise up for these Portuguese in these high pressurized moments. But Bruno Fernandes, the days that he does not show up, it's like they're playing 10 versus 11, because he's literally an utter useless, and that's what he was today. I mean, Bruno Fernandes, he didn't really put his foot in the game at all. I thought he was forced to play a little bit deep just because of the way Roberto Martinez set up, and that made Ronaldo, that made it difficult for Ronaldo, because he wasn't really getting the service. And then Bernardo Silva, he wasn't picking up the right areas, the right pockets of space that he could really be dangerous. It was like he was trying to kind of drifting. He was trying to figure out, where do I go? What space do I take? With this fluid type of football that Roberto Martinez wants to play with the Portuguese. Now, the Portuguese, they do get to take on Turkey next game. This is a Turkey team that was able to get past Georgia 2-1. It was actually a very, very good game in my opinion. I really love that game. Fascinating, going back and forth. And it's a good test for the Portuguese national team. A brilliant test for them. But they need to change it up. Now, I think a lineup change, I think you need to get get rid of this new fluid type of way. Just go with the normal set back four. Keep Vitinha and Bruno Fernandes in midfield, but probably bring a holding midfielder in there to allow Bruno Fernandes to push up the field, to allow Vitinha to push up higher up the field, and then defensively provide you cover, because in transition, it was very concerning how they look, because João Cancelo is not the guy that will, provide you, because forget the João Cancelo hybrid fullback midfielder type of role. That did not work, and it made everything slow, and it made everything confusing for the Portuguese players that didn't understand what spaces to take and all that. So I think you just go back to what made you really good at qualifiers. I don't know why Roberto Martinez comes into the first game and decides to change it all up, but yeah, I mean, they still were able to get the win, which is the good thing for Portugal. And yeah, I think it's time that they change it up. They need to go back to their normal qualifying ways for this next game against Turkey. Short break here coming up. When we come back, I'm gonna we're gonna preview tomorrow's Euros matchups.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
For the break, we discussed Portugal coming back from behind to defeat Czechia. We now move on to preview tomorrow's matchups at the European Championship, and it is match day 2, which makes this a very fascinating in the fact that, a lot of teams are really, they're really going to have a chance to save their European Championship after bad starts. There's also teams that have had good starts that are going to maybe fall apart in the second game that could affect them the rest of the tournament. There's going to be a lot of interesting storylines, especially how the opening games went on. Yeah, I think this match day 2 is going to be really special. And you start off with Croatia taking on Albania. Now, to recap, both of these teams are coming off defeats. Croatia was thumped by Spain 3-0, despite having a vast majority of chances to really, swing the game in their favor. Albania, they're coming off of a loss that they gave up a lead, with them scoring the fastest goal in European history, taking the lead within the first 30 seconds. But then Italy were quickly able to respond within the next 17, 18 minutes to take the lead. Then, and they had a few opportunities here and there to really get that second to equalize it, but they weren't able to get it down. So they will be, so now they're looking to get a result against the Croatians. Now, in my opinion, I think Albania is a pretty impressive side, and and they proved that against Italy. Now, Italy, there were stretches in the game that they really dominated, but then Albanians, they kept despite going down early, giving up that lead early, they hanged in there. They didn't allow it to get out of hand, and then they slowly built their way back, and they and there was for me, I don't understand why they didn't do this more often, but they had their opportunities going along and really testing those Italian center backs. In the few moments that they did, they were in behind and they created some opportunities. Now, why they didn't do that more often, especially throughout that second half, earlier in that second half, I don't know. I don't know why they waited till the end to really chase it. But they proved in that game that they got brilliant players, brilliant football players. Broja, with the pace that he provides, he could be deadly. We saw the quality, the clinicalness of Bajrami. Asani is a very, very good player. He proved that on Monday. I'm not counting out this team. I thought they were strong defensively. I think the goals that they conceded was, one was a set piece. The other was, unlucky in the fact that they had a clearance deflect off DiMarco, which fell right into the path of Barella, who hit a screamer of a goal. But yeah, I don't think they're a bad team. Now, Croatia, they're coming off a 3-0 loss to Spain. But yet again, I happened to analyze the performance of the game, and I didn't think they were deserving of a 3-0 loss. Now, they weren't good, and they defended bad. They really, really defended bad in certain moments that really made them pay. But it's not a team that I think was gonna, just go away. I think they have experience, and they proved in that game that they can play football. They created plenty of chances against Spain, and any other day that game could have been game could have been 2-2, 3-3. That's the kind of game that it was. It was back and forth. Spain would score a goal, then Croatia would go and respond and almost get a goal. Spain would get another goal, and Croatia go right back up the field and be this close to getting another goal. And then at the end of the first half, right before Spain scored, they had a huge opportunity to get a goal. But then Spain were able to get a third, and then another opportunity to start the second half that Croatia had cleared off the line by Kukurea, and then another opportunity that they had with that penalty that he should have just shot in, but he decided to draw the penalty. Rodri should have got a red card, but that's another story. And they end up missing the penalty, and they end up getting it in actually, but off the rebound. But the player, I believe it was Perisic, get called for encroachment. But they played some good football in that game. So I'm not ready to write them off like some people are saying, oh, this generation I think it's over, blah, blah, blah. I'm not ready to run it off, because in terms of general play, I thought they played pretty well. It's just individual moments went against them and went Spain's way. But I think in this game, this is the game that Croatia get their European Championship back on track. I don't think Albania has the quality to be clinical like Spain was, and to really make Croatia pay. Now, I think Armando Broja's pace in transition could cost the Croatian center backs issues, because that is the weakness of this Croatian team. I think they're pretty daft in the way that they defend. I think you might look at bringing Guardiola as a center back. I'm not trying to tell Zlatko Dalic how to manage, because he's a brilliant manager and he knows much more football than I could dream of. But I think you probably want to move Guardiola as a center half and bring in another natural left back. Maybe that he can provide more in the attack as well. Just so you solid up, because that center back partnership was really daft in the way that they defended, in my opinion. And I think Broja can make them pay if they leave huge gaps like they did, especially on that first goal against Morata. But again, I don't think this Albanian team has what it takes to be clinical the way that Spain was. I think Croatia are able. I think Croatia, once they get that first goal into the back of the net, whether it comes from, you know, a guy like Perisic, who might start this game, or Kramaric or whatever, maybe a goal from midfield, I think that will really open up the floodgates for Croatia. I think this will go similarly the way that they, you know, beat Canada last World Cup, beating them 4-1. I think this is the time that they really turn around their European Championship and get started. And I see them, you know, comfortably getting past Albania and winning this game and really dominating the midfield, really controlling the ball, and really, you know, making Albania a little bit suffocate in certain moments of the game. I really think this is going to be a Croatia's game here. I'm looking at like a 3-1, that type of scoreline. I think will be comfortable. Germany-Hungary, this is my opinion. This is Germany's first real test at this European Championship. Not that Scotland are a poor team, but the Scotland that showed up yesterday are a very poor team. Or not yesterday, but on whenever the European Championship started last Friday, I think that was not a good team. They didn't show up. They left so much space. They defended horribly. They played a ridiculously high line despite having no pressure on the ball, and they let Toni Kroos do whatever he wants. Hungary is a team that, you know, they're not going to allow that to happen. Not saying Hungary is better than Scotland or anything, which, I mean, they probably are just based on quality. But this is a Hungary team that's also reeling, and they, you know, they got comfortably shellacked by Switzerland. Switzerland really outplayed them in that first game. So, and it's going to take everything for Hungary to even get a point in this game. But I do believe in the quality Hungary has to make this Germany team suffer. I think they have more quality than the Scottish team. So I do think this is going to be a tight, cagey affair for Germany. I don't think it's going to go anywhere near as well as it did in match day one. Hungary, they're going to come in, they're going to defend. They have quality to make you pay with Dominik Szoboszlai. You know, it's a good all-around team, and I think it's the first real test for Germany. We get to see how good they are and if they are a legit contender to win this European Championship. I'm gonna go for a point apiece. I think this game ends in a tie. I think Hungary put a good account for themselves at the last European Championship. This game ended at 2-2 after, you know, a goal in the last dying moments for Germany with Goretzka. I think it's gonna go similar. I think it'll be a cagey affair. I think Germany are gonna struggle to really break down this Hungarian defense, and I think it's gonna go 1-1. I really do. Scotland, Switzerland. This is the game. Excuse me. This is the game I'm looking forward to most for tomorrow. I think Scotland is, you know, obviously it's crucial for them to really rebound after what happened at game one. I think they kind of need 4 points. They need 4 points in this group to move on, because you look on it, you're not going to move on as a 3-point third place team when you just got defeated 5-1. The goal differential is going to be a massive factor. So they're going to need the full 4 points. And I think they're going to need a result against Switzerland. Probably a win, but a result. But I don't think it's going to go anywhere near as bad as I did game one. I think game one, the fact that they were playing against Germany, and I just didn't really understand the setup, in my opinion. I think Steve Clark will fix the issues that they had in game one in terms of allowing, you know, you don't want to give, if you give Granit Xhaka the same amount of time that you gave Toni Kroos, it's going to go horribly wrong again. Not as bad as what it went against Germany, but it's still going to go really wrong. You got to close off that space that Granit Xhaka has. They're going to have to be very careful with the pace of Varga not Varga, Dua going in behind. Dua and Vargas and Endoy, you got to be very, very careful, especially with Dua, who was very tidy in that first game with his runs in behind. You have to be aware of him and his ability. I think Scotland have a surprise in us to show. All teams are writing them off because of how bad it went game one, but I don't think they're as bad as that. I think they just performed horribly that day. I think they need to go back to. I don't think they can't play as high of a line as they did in the last game, and they gotta stay compact like they do and take advantage of space left in behind as Switzerland come in and really play a transitional game, which I think Scotland are able to do that. They're gonna have the support of the country behind them. The Tartan army travels well, so I'm gonna. Now Switzerland are the much better team, just based on how they performed against Hungary. I did not see that kind of performance coming from Switzerland, but I'm gonna go with the upset here. I haven't really called much upsets up to this point. I'm gonna say Scotland get the 1-0 victory. A goal coming from John McGinn or McTominay or McGregor, somebody from midfield is able to get a goal, and they defend for their lives, and they escape with a 1-0 win. That's what I predict for the Scottish against Switzerland. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we're going to discuss some of the must-watch Copa America group stages games.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
Before the break, we discussed some of the European Championship matchups tomorrow. We pivot. The Copa America starts in a few days. We're all excited. Argentina kick off the tournament against Canada at the Mercedes-Benz Superdome in Atlanta. But that's not what we'll be discussing today. We'll preview that game a little bit on tomorrow's show. But we got to discuss some of the must-watch games at these Copa America group stages. There's some interesting ties going around. So I'm just gonna go match day by match day. I think in my match day one, there's two ties that really pop out of my screen that I really want to talk about. Argentina, Canada, and the fact that this is the opening game of Copa America. This is the first time we see this Argentina team at a major international tournament since they won the last World Cup. We get to see Messi back on the big stage, with the fact that, let's be honest, Inter Miami is not a big stage. So this is the first time a lot of people are really going to be tuning in and watching Messi play, probably since that last World Cup final. Similar to the Ronaldo situation yesterday. This is the first time a lot of people have been watching Ronaldo since he played at that last World Cup game against Morocco. Similar situation with Messi here. It's the first time a lot of people are going to be watching Messi play. So he did actually have that second half of the season at PSG that season, but it was he was in and out and all that. But this is like the first real time that we're all going to get to see him play again. And obviously, whenever Messi's playing, it's always an attraction. And it's a Canada team that's kind of, with Jesse Marsch, they started off roughly with losing Netherlands, but then had a huge morale boost and going into France and getting a 0-0 draw with France and playing very well defensively, not conceding much space and getting out of that result against France 0-0. I thought that was fairly impressive, and I thought Jesse Marsch would have been very pleased with that performance. France had a few chances earlier, but early in the game, but Canada's keeper Maxime Crepeau was able to make Crepio. I'm probably messing it up. Was probably was very good. But yeah, I thought Canada also had a few opportunities in that second half, and I think both teams were deserving in terms of a 0-0 result. I think that was fair, and the Canadians, they had a lot of intensity, and I think they defended really, really well. So I don't think they're going to be as big of a walkovers as we might think entering this Argentina tie. I think Argentina are going to respect them. I think they have ability in transition like a Jonathan David and Alphonso Davis to really make that Argentina backline a little bit of concerned. So yeah, I think that's a good game to start off the Copa America. In my opinion, that's probably the top two teams in that group. You gotta respect. Well, Peru and Chile have been really bad in qualifiers, but Canada have not been that good since that previous World Cup. But I think based on the fact that Canada and what they did in the lead up to the 2022 World Cup, you gotta say they're the first two team. They're the second best team in that group. So that, that's gonna be an interesting time. Now the other tie in the match day one that I'm really looking forward to is Mexico and Jamaica. And the fact that I think Mexico has a real opportunity to start off this Copa America with a huge embarrassment in losing to Jamaica, because it is an embarrassment if they lose to Jamaica in this big stage that is this Copa America. Out of all the teams that you start off with, you get to start off with a fellow CONCACAF opponent, and if you lose to Jamaica, I think that's really, really bad. But I think this Jamaican team is better than the Mexican team. I think this Jamaican team has more talent than this Mexico team and plays better football and is better managed. Jamaica is managed by Hammer Haldorsen, who had those miracle run with Iceland, taking them to the quarterfinals and then taking them also to the World Cup the following year, where they didn't do as well, but still he's a very, very good manager, and he has a squad of players to choose from in this. Now, he's not going to have Leon Bailey because of his issues with the Canadian national team, which has been well documented, but he has a Cordova Reed, a Nicholson, Michael Hector, a Palmer, an Anderson. These are decent players. There's players that are playing throughout the Premier League on this team, in the Championship, in the Premier League. This is a quality team. And keep in mind, at the last Nations League, by the way, Mikel Antonio, Shamar Nicholson, Bobby de Cordova Reed. This is not just guys. These are players that are legit. So, and keep in mind, at the last Nations League in the finals, the U.S. took on Jamaica in the semifinals, and then they took on Mexico in the finals. Jamaica put up much bigger of a fight against the United States. In fact, Jamaica and this is a Jamaican team, was kind of a B team. They didn't really have their full set of players in that game against the U.S. They were able to take the United States. They had the lead for basically the entire game, and then in the last minute of the game, on a set piece, USA take advantage of an own goal, and then in the extra time, the U.S. quality eventually got through. But Jamaica really outplayed U.S. in that game. They were the better team, and they should have came out with victory, and they were very, very unlucky. And Mexico, that following game the U.S. took on Mexico, was a complete shellacking. It was a waxing. The U.S., dumped Mexico. I think this Jamaican team is just better than Mexico, and I think we're looking at a potential shock here, because if you look at the way Mexico performed, especially against Uruguay, even with this new youth team, which is not really a youth team. It's just the main guys are out of there, like a Raul Jimenez, a Memo Ochoa, players like that. Irving Lozano, but this is still a team that has some players that are just not good enough, and you bring in some youngsters, but again, those youngsters, they're not ready to compete at the level. You saw against Uruguay. Against Brazil, they put up a little bit of a better fight, especially in that second half. I thought they were really pretty good in that second half, which is a good sign for them. But can they really, this Jamaican side can really pull off that upset in that game one? I think in terms of match day 2, there's not much really standout games, in my opinion. There's not really anything that makes you, mouth water. Now, there's a lot of games that could get interesting. I think Mexico and Venezuela, that could be very interesting. Again, similar situation to game 1 in the fact that I think Venezuela probably goes into that game thinking, they should get the 3 points, because Venezuela's been really good in World Cup qualifiers, and, they're fully expecting to get out of the group that they're in. So, yeah, there's that factor going on there. Other than that, not that much good matchups in that match day 2. Now, match day 3 is we got some brilliant matchups. You got Ecuador versus Mexico. In my opinion, this is a game that Ecuador are clearly the better team against Mexico. They're clearly the favorites over Mexico. You see the squad of players that they have, but not just that. Their performance at the last World Cup, in terms of the way that they were able to really dominate games. They weren't able to get out of the group stages, but they played really well at the last World Cup. Played a really good game against Qatar, really dominated them. Then outplayed the Netherlands throughout 90 minutes, and really were very unlucky not to get out of that game with 3 points. And then against Senegal, they run into a more experienced team that took advantage of moments, and they go out of the World Cup. But this is a team with quality. You look at an Estupiñán, Preciado, Moises Caicedo, Ener Valencia, who's a little bit older but still provides you, some goal-scoring prowess there. You cannot sleep on this Ecuador team at all. I think they can be very, very deadly. The way that they're able to get possession of the ball, create plenty of opportunities. They're not afraid to push guys forward. Don't sleep on this Ecuador team. So that's a fascinating game when they take on Mexico. And then USA-Uruguay. That'll probably be the game in that third group stage game that will decide to win that group. And that's a big game, because in the following group, you have a Brazil and a Colombia that are two, at the end of the day, it's not going to really, you're going to probably want to avoid Brazil. But at this day and age, Brazil-Colombia, is there really much of a difference? No. In fact, there's some people that say I'd rather play Brazil, which is kind of embarrassing for the Brazil national team. But yeah, that's going to be a really scintillating tie to watch, in my opinion, between the U.S. and Uruguay. And we get to see, because the major question with the U.S. is, can they do something that they're not expected to do? They have not really had that signature win under Berhalter in that U.S.-Uruguay game at the Arrowhead Stadium. That's a perfect opportunity for them to do it on the big stage. Now, the Colombia and Brazil friendlies, yes, that was an opportunity for them to do that, but at the end of the day, it was friendlies, in my opinion. And were we really if they got the win at any of those 2 games, we would have went crazy. In fact, we went crazy over a draw over Brazil. But if you were able to get a result against Uruguay and win that group, I think it buys Berhalter probably the next 2 years, and he'll get to the World Cup at least. But I really don't see that happening. And then obviously the tie of the group stage game has to be Brazil-Colombia. In my opinion, the second and fourth best team at this Copa America. There's a lot of people, there's a lot of people that are saying Colombia are a better team than Brazil right now, and I think it's time that Brazil need to rise up. And they've had some poor performances in friendlies and qualifiers, and this new generation needs to prove we're still Brazil. We still have that Jogo Milito style of play, and it's very important for them to beat this Colombian team and to win that group, because it seems like you see with the Ronaldinho comments talking about the lack of ability and lack of flair in this team and all that, and it is the truth. But they have a chance to right their wrong, to do it against Colombia, to get a victory, to snap their streak probably, because they're probably going to enter this game with the streak. I don't see Paraguay, Costa Rica being able to defeat Colombia. So really important, in my opinion, for Colombia to it's really important and it's very imperative for me that Colombia get rid of not Colombia but Brazil are able to get the pressure off them and get this victory and win the group so that they can go into the knockout stage game with confidence. Because I think if they drop this game, I think their Copa America will be over very, very soon after the group stages. I really think so. I think Uruguay has a chance to do them in the quarterfinals. I think if they play the U.S., I think they'll get past the U.S. and then in the semifinals, once they play the first real team, they'll go home, because Brazil really, really concerns me, the state of manner that they're in right now. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we're gonna talk about some of the teams that have impressed the most at the European Championships through match day 1.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
Before the break, we discussed some of the must-watch Copa America group stage games. We move on to talk about European Championship. It's been interesting European Championships up to this point. Some very good match day 1s, but match day 1 matchups. But I want to do kind of my power rankings of teams at the European Championship through match day 1. Based on the performances, I have to say number 1 has to be I don't know if I want to base the power ranking. This is not power rankings actually. This is just based on who has impressed me the most through match day 1. I'd say number 1 will be Germany. I thought Germany, what they did the host opening night, they were brilliant. They were amazing. Now you could argue they were allowed to be in how poorly Scotland was, allowing all that time and space for Toni Kroos to do whatever he wants in midfield, to the space that was brought by this ridiculous high line Scotland was playing with no pressure on the ball that allowed players in behind. But I was very, very impressed, and just how fluid Germany were, the one-touch passing, the ability that they had, which I know existed, but they were never able to get it together. There were certain moments that they really struggled. They struggled against Ukraine. They kept 0-0, a Ukraine team that got shellacked by Romania yesterday. So yeah, I was very impressed with Germany, and Jamal Musiala, Florian Wirtz, how they're able to work together. Both very good, technical, gifted players. Florian Wirtz, when you look at his capacity to run into the box and score a goal. Jamal Musiala, his ability to control the ball in tight space, be really, tidy. I've always thought he was a brilliant player. So yeah, I think Germany would be my number 1 team. I'm going to say number 2, Spain. Spain were very, very good in the game in terms of the fact that despite them conceding a lot of opportunities, they still defended very, very well and defended for their lives with the last-ditch tackles and, closing off, not, being very, very tight in front of goal. With the fact that Unai Simon, I thought he was very concerning in the game. That's my real major concern for Spain. But I was really impressed in how they're able to get outpossessed and still win. Spain always played this tiki-taka style of play, and they've always it's been, that's what Spain has been. They want to pass the ball into the back of the net. But the Spain team, they showed that They could be clinical, which Spain teams previously have shown that they've never been clinical. They've never had that cutting edge. The Spanish team was very clinical, cutting edge. They took advantage of opportunities when they came. They weren't afraid to take risks and play balls in behind and all that. A lot of times with previous Spanish teams, they see a potential chance to play in a ball in the behind and to take a gamble, but instead they don't want to risk losing the ball and they just go and pass it side to side to retain possession. You know, this Spanish team is a little bit different in the fact that they're willing to concede possession. They're willing to, you know, move the ball quickly up the field, to be direct, to use the verticality of players like Lamine Yamal and Nico Williams. And that was very impressive in my opinion. And it makes them deadly because they got proper football players in this team. This team has proper football players. They have the verticality, their ability to be direct. And they, you know, there's not really much holes in this team. So that makes them a concerning outfit for, you know, teams at this European Championship. For me, number 3, I'll go with France. I think France is the best team in this. Yeah, but based on impressive performance. But yet again, I think it's a little harsh to have France at 3 because this is what we expect from France. You know, their ability to defend really, really well, to concede possession, to allow the other opportunity to have a few chances, but to just play in transition. And, you know, they've never been a team to dominate a game and really make another team suffocate. They've always been let a team have the ball, let a team think that they're in the game, and when they don't expect it, quickly counter and get the goal and put the dagger in them. That's what they've always been under the Deschamps. So really, I think it's a little unfair to have them number 3 because we should expect these type of performances and we should applaud them for being able to continue on what they're able to do to execute their game plan. But again, there was teams that outperformed them in game match day 1. They're not better teams than them, but I thought Germany were more dominant. I thought Spain were more dominant. But, you know, France still brilliant team. I'm going to say number 4, Italy. I was quietly impressed with Italy in the fact that I did not see this coming in this European Championship. I thought once they went down, a goal down early, I thought, wow, they could be in trouble. I didn't think there was much quality within the squad, but you saw Federico Chiesa. He came back to his form in terms, you saw nutmegs, you saw him getting past players, you saw him whipping in his curler of a shot. You saw the likes of Barella being clinical, taking advantage of opportunity. That response from conceding a goal early on, that next 25, 30 minutes, man, they really dominated that game. Jorginho getting the ball, really controlling possession of the game. The chances that they created through set pieces, through verticality, really controlling and dominating the midfield. Italy, very, very impressive in that game for me. My main concern with them is the few opportunities, especially late in that second half, that Albania decided to go direct. You saw those center backs, that inexperienced center back partnership, you know, could have some, you know, there could be some issues there. You could get in behind them and really make them pay. I really thought with that long ball, I forgot the name of the Albanian striker, but he had an opportunity at the end. Donnarumma ended up coming with the save, but you know, that was one of the few actually chances that they gave him a chance on the long ball, and I think that's a concerning thing with Italy. They're, you know, that center back partnership, if they really get tested. But in terms from the midfield to attack, brilliant in my opinion. I'd say number 1, 2, 3. I'd say number 4, Switzerland. Switzerland were, you know, there's a lot of people that thought Hungary was able to come in and get the result because Hungary were looked at some sort of the dark horse, one of the potential dark horse at this European Championship. In Switzerland, they've always been that boring team that get results through just pure professionalism. They never really stand out. They never have an amazing performance where they really dominate a game and really play fluid attacking football. But we saw that from Hungary. They created so many opportunities, and they really, with the pace, running in behind and controlling the midfield with Xhaka and stuff, they were played really well, and they played some quality football. And for me, very impressive. And yes, I have them losing to Scotland tomorrow, which is kind of which is really disrespectful. I'm not gonna lie, it is disrespectful. But you know, that Switzerland team really impressed me in the game. Kind of like how Italy impressed me with my lack of expectation for them. I thought I'd have to say the exact same thing for this Switzerland national team. I thought they played some fluid football, and I think that they're they have a legit chance of to make some sort of a run at this European Championship. I think that I have 5 in there. 1, 2. So I have Germany 1, Spain 2, France 3, Italy 4, Switzerland 5. Yeah. So some quick honorable mentions of teams that I didn't notice, that I didn't point out. Romania, they were really, really good. I thought they played really fantastically. They were very clinical, despite conceding much of possession. They really were clinical in the goals that they scored, had some wonder goals, and played some wonderful football too. Really controlled, really played well in transition. And they played against a Ukraine team that individually probably has more players that are talented, or more players that we recognize as talented players. When you look at Dobvik, Mikhailo Mudryk, Zinchenko, those are some really good teams that really good players that this Ukrainian national team have. But again, they didn't show up. They didn't play to the sum of their parts, and they were really disappointed in that opening game. There is a lot of pressure put on the Ukraine with the situation going on in Ukraine, and it's kind of like the nation is on the Ukrainians' back, which is a little bit unfair, I'm not gonna lie. But Romania went in there and they played really phenomenally well. So hats off to Romania. Now, yes, I have not mentioned England. I've said my thoughts on England. They were not impressive at all. They were very, very alarming. The difference between England and France is that France, they've proven that they can win with the style of play. England have proven that they can't. I don't think England have the resilience to win in a pragmatic game the way that France does. And yeah, that midfield and how bad they look, that was going to be a big, big issue for them in this tournament. I think defensively, we know the issues that they have defensively. And the way that they were pushed back after scoring that goal is very, very alarming and shown that they're the same old England. And then Netherlands, I thought Netherlands, they were kind of slow. They struggled a lot in their opening game. They played against a Poland team that was really, that really fought hard, but they really struggled. And the fact that they needed Weghorst to come in off the bench to turn this game around kind of showed the story. No disrespect to Weghorst, but if you're relying on Weghorst, you're not going far in this tournament. And, Memphis Depay, he's hit or miss. And when he's missed, that's what's going to happen. And it was really bad in this game, especially in that first half. And he needs to turn around and be that talisman for the Netherlands if they want to win the European Championship. You got people talking about his headband. Yeah, I mean, you're going to come for criticism when you don't show up. And he did not show up, so. But that's it for that. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we'll react to some of the top headlines going on in the soccer world. Before the break, we discussed who has been most impressive at the European Championship through match day 1. We now react to some of the top headlines going on in the soccer world. We have to talk about this center back situation at United. They're looking to sign a center half. They're linked with Braithwaite and the Delict actually happened to be another player that Ten Hag has managed, and there's been a huge reluctancy on Ten Hag and how much control he has over transfers. But obviously, I think this is a player the Man United board want, or at least serves as a backup if they're not able to get Braithwaite. Now, Braithwaite is a $70 million proposition, and and that's a lot of money for Brantwaite. I'm gonna be honest. He's a very good player. He got into this England squad, which shows he's a good player. But again, don't think $70 million is worth him. United made an opening bid of $35 million plus $8 million in add-on, which, come on, that's gonna be rejected. But again, now if United are not able to negotiate that, they do have a backup option in De Ligt, who they will, who has a $41 million evaluation. I think De Ligt is overall a better prospect than Brantwaite, in the fact that I think De Ligt is a better player. I think Brantwaite does have potential, but I don't think he can reach the height of De Ligt if he can kind of get his career back on track at Manchester United. I don't think so. You see De Ligt, he's a captain, he's a leader. He was a captain of that Ajax team, age 21, that reached the semi-final. I think he has had injury concerns, which does drive his value down, but I still think overall he's a really, really good center half, and he's used to playing under Ten Hag, and Ten Hag has managed him before. So I think United center back things are gonna be are going to their center back issue is gonna be interesting to see which way that they want to go. Turkey got past Georgia 2-1. I didn't discuss this game in depth on the show today because there was other topics, but phenomenal game, one of the best at this European Championship so far. Every game has been really amazing. End-to-end stuff in this Turkey-Georgia game. Turkey was able to get the victory with a stunning goal in the second half coming from Arda Güler to give them the lead. Arda Güler, this is a Turkish player that has, he's young, he's at Real Madrid. And interesting to see what he does in his future, if he decides to stay at Real Madrid knowing he's not going to get that much game time, or if he asks for a potential loan move to really start getting that game time. Because wow, what a player. I thought he was brilliant, not just the goal that he scored, but in terms of general play, I thought he played really, really well. I thought the Georgians put a good account for themselves too, had a few opportunities near at the end to nick the point, wasn't able to get it to go, but overall fantastic game, and impressed with the way it went. Now, Premier League fixtures, they've been announced, and the opening game for Chelsea is Manchester City at Stamford Bridge, which will be Enzo Maresca's first game for Chelsea, and he'll be managing the team that he was an assistant at against Manchester City, against Pep Guardiola. Wow, that's going to be an interesting game. I think Chelsea kind of have a ripe against this Premier League selection committee, or whoever decides how the game went, because you give them Liverpool last year, Chelsea in their opening game, now you hand them Manchester City. Like, what is this? But I'm not complaining. It's gonna be a fascinating game. I think a lot of people are gonna watch, and you can't really analyze that game this early, but it is mouth-watering. By the way, the rest of the Man United, they open up their Premier League campaign against Fulham. That's the opening day of the season. By the way, the opening game of the season. Ipswich, they kick off their Premier League campaign. They take on Liverpool. That's gonna be in Ipswich Town at their stadium. By the way, Arsenal take on Wolves. Everton take on Brighton. Newly promoted Southampton, they will take on Newcastle. Nottingham Forest will take on Bournemouth. West Ham will take on Villa. Brentford will take on Crystal Palace. Chelsea will take on Man City, and then newly promoted Leicester will kick off their Premier League campaign against Tottenham. So a lot of great opening games at during this Premier League campaign this season. Kylian Mbappe, he has officially been ruled out for the tie against the Netherlands with the broken nose. Bad blow for France, because that's that Netherlands tie could be very, very important in determining who wins that group. Now, I don't think it's bad news for France in terms of this tournament. I think France are able to withstand that, and I think France are still going to be able to get a result against the Netherlands without Kylian Mbappe. I really do. I think this French team has more about them than just Kylian Mbappe. But this is a story to watch. He might miss the whole group stages, which could be a little bit of an issue for France, but I still think that this is not the worst deal in the world, and I think Didier Deschamps is going to be able to cleverly manage past this situation that Mbappe that France find themselves in at this European Championship. I forgot what else would I want to talk about? A lot of the main things has been the European Championship, because man, like, the European Championships has been amazing. Each game has been mouth-watering. Each game has been so impressive. End-to-end football. I don't think we haven't had a 0-0 draw we have not had a 0-0 draw in the entire match day one, which is amazing. I don't remember when's the last time that's happened at a major international tournament. Obviously, all the main headlines is going to come from that. The Copa America kicks off in a few days. Argentina take on Canada. We're going to have more amazing international football coming up. I'll talk about N'Golo Kante. N'Golo Kante, man, winning man of the match that first game after 2 years back of not playing international football. The first time we really watched him at the big stage for a long time, because he made the move to Saudi. Wow, phenomenal. And I'm so happy that he's back at the big stage and he's putting up brilliant performances, because, man, he was a menace. And I don't know if they have someone else in like a Chouameni, they might be escaping that game. They might not escape that game with full 3 points, because Austria did have a few opportunities a little bit near the end. But N'Golo Kante, man, what a player. Man of the match, as always. Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Soccer Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us, so please remember to subscribe to the show and leave a positive review. It really does make a difference. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. Thank you once again, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit and the